All right, episode 34. This is going to be a fun one. We are just going to reminisce about our real estate war stories, and we're going to go ahead and get started right now.
Welcome to the only real estate podcast worth listening to, with your hosts Nick Good, Matt Kelderman, and Brian Force. Combined, they have 26 years of experience and have sold over 1,500 homes. Join them each week as they bring you everything you need to know about real estate. And now, here are your hosts, Nick, Matt, and Brian.
What's up, everyone?
What's up?
Back up in your ass with the resurrection.
Yeah.
It took 3 seconds.
Yeah. Before we get started on episode 34, are you struggling to get in front of sellers and take more listings? Don't know where to get seller leads and how to convert them? Then go to our website that we're eventually going to buy to get registered for our Take 10 listings every single month. And I'm doing that to really force us, because we're going to be doing our Take 10 Listings webinar that we're going to send you guys to.
Yep.
Because we are taking 10 listings every single month.
We took 12 last month, so sometimes it's not even 10.
Well, it's 10 plus.
And we're
10
we're
plus.
implementers too. So like behind the scenes of this show, because today is going to just be like just kind of us chopping it up. And what we really want is for you guys to engage, because I think all of us have a million of these stories, and some of us have probably forgotten some of them. But like, dude, some of these ridiculous asinine things that happen to us in real estate are out of control. So go to the Take 10 Listings website before we get involved in this, because you're just going to just have a hearty laugh for the next 45 minutes about all the stupid crap we've done.
Yeah, so let's get that important stuff out of the way. All right, we got 45 minutes. Nick sent me a text earlier, and we're just gonna dive right off the deep end, guys.
Like real estate.
Nope.
No.
Nick sent me a text. Nick sent me a text that said, "Ask me about Elizabeth's gangbang story." We're gonna start right there.
But let's kind of start. We all have these kind of real estate war stories, right? And you know, and I think this is what kind of gives us that camaraderie, or maybe why we go to happy hours all the time.
That's what it
We
is.
deal with very emotional people at their most emotional, and so there's usually a lot of wonky stuff that comes out of that. I think that's what binds us as an industry.
That's what makes us all drink so much.
I mean, and is it when, you know, is it on your first client? You know, some people get thrown in the deep end right away, and it's not always a client.
It's not always a client. A lot of times it's another agent. I'm usually the other agent in other people's war stories. I think they're like, there's this mean guy on the other side that was just correcting me the whole time and
I have
being a dick about it.
I have some that are like, now that I look back on it, like I had this agent really early in my career that it was one of the first deals I was ever doing that was of any significance, right? So I got like super excited, and I expected her to be working until 9 o'clock every night, like I was working till 9 o'clock every night. And she wasn't responding to me, and she freaked out on me one Sunday and was like, "I'm with my family, I'm with my kids. There's nothing that will happen today.
I have a
Leave me
life."
alone." And I was convinced for like a year she cost me that deal. And then now I'm like, dude, don't call me on Sunday about something with the title company. I cannot do anything.
I'm that exact.
No, I'm like, I understand why she was so mad. That is super irritating when that happens.
So we want people to chime in down below. Like, tell us your kind of real estate war story, horror story. You know, what has stressed you out so hard that, you know, you burst into tears when it was over because you're like, thank God that's done.
Yeah.
There have been a lot for me that are like that, where like usually it's when it comes down to like early on in my career, it's coming down to like things like repairs and stuff like that like I just didn't know how to advise people, and stuff got real sideways. But I think in the situations that I know I can't do anything about and aren't my fault, one of my only real talents is like sort of like not give a shittery.
Right.
And I've had that since day one. My first ever listing, it took me 11 months to get my first listing. My first listing ever was a FSBO, and we got to the closing. I won't say her name. We probably have to beep names.
We probably should. I don't think we can beat.
We can't
we should probably be a little loose with some of these stories.
Yeah. So I won't say her name, but I will say that there is a certain demographic out there, and I think I can talk about this demographic because it's not racist. Older single white ladies who have never been married are, I think, the most unreasonable people on earth. And I don't know why that is. Anyway, because this is not the first time I've dealt with somebody in that demographic that has been very difficult as a client. We get to closing. Closing was supposed to happen on Friday. We get to the closing table. That's my fault. I shouldn't have scheduled closing on Friday as my first listing.
Yep.
I know better
Rookie
now.
move.
I know
Tuesday,
better now.
Wednesday, or Thursday.
So the reason, Derek, you don't schedule closings on a Friday in real estate is because when your crazy client gets the table and halfway through just refuses to sign any further because she doesn't understand the documents, doesn't matter who explains them to her. The document she got held up on, Derek, was the document that all it says is, our attorneys prepared this paperwork. They don't represent us or you. It's basically all it says. It's basically just saying the people that prepared this paperwork, if for some reason there was representation that needed to be had by either you, the seller, or the title company, that would not be the same lawyer. It's just a disclosure. I don't know why it's there. I don't know why any of this stuff's there, Derek.
Because somebody got sued over it at some point.
Exactly. She was like, there's no way in hell
Is this
I'm signing this.
is this Karen, the soccer mom that goes
Her
around
name was so close to Karen.
In
I'm
a,
not going to say it, but it was so
in a
close.
minivan and asks for the manager at every establishment?
Yeah, it was her on steroids is what it was. Anyway, we get to the point where the title company just closes, right? Like, I have to call the buyers and be like, she's not done signing. We're going to have to pick this legitimately. We're going to have to pick this up on Monday because this lady is refusing to sign any of the documents, right? And so the deal was basically, there was like, all right, like the buyers, luckily, the buyers already had somewhere to stay, so they weren't moving in right away. So they're like, okay, fine. Like, I don't know why she's not signing, but fine, right? We get back. She has finally calmed down over the weekend. We get back on Monday. She finishes signing, but she wants the title company, now that we don't close till Monday, she wants the title company to reimburse her for her $12 in mortgage interest that she has accrued over the weekend. I shit you not, Derek. She filed a lawsuit against them.
I would have showed up to her with 24 rolls of pennies and said, here is your $12. Hit the bricks.
I bowed out so fast. I was just like, the other agent contacted me. She was like, because she was saying like after closing the seller had like contacted the buyers directly too and was like
So-
being weird with them.
Was
and,
she
like,
trying to sue you?
No, she's trying to sue the title company for making her sign all these documents that she didn't understand.
Oh, boy.
And then because she was making them sign all these documents that she didn't understand, and we had to go over the weekend to sign the next Monday, that she accrued like $12 in mortgage interest because
Yep.
her house closed on Friday or her house closed on Monday instead of Friday. She like literally tried to take them to small claims court and like
$12.
win a case. Yeah, I don't know how it played out.
$12.
I deleted her number immediately after it funded.
That sounds like a Brian's billionaire idea.
And it's funny because I've got plenty of those people at title company who I'm literally like yelling on the phone. I was like, you will sign these documents today or I will sue you.
He was
Right?
screaming at somebody a few months ago.
The one that probably taught me the biggest lesson, and every real estate agent who's driving in their car right now or doing anything, raise your hand if this happened to you. The lack of bathroom gear that you need as a real estate agent, and it was not for me. But if you are a new real estate agent, first off, throw a roll of TP in the back in the trunk, right? Because you don't know what you're going to need it for. So we're out showing houses to these people in Lake Highlands. It was very early in my career, and I was very excited about it. And they had their kid with them, and he was 4 or 5. He's a cool kid, but has no control over when it is time to go to the bathroom.
That's yeah.
And these agents who were local Lake Highlands agents, awesome guys, for whatever reason, the utilities in the home were off, right? So this little guy's like, I gotta go to the restroom. We're like, okay. So he goes in there and he goes to the bathroom. It's number 2. And I'm freaking out, right? Because I think everything that happens in the house is my responsibility still at this point,
yeah.
right? There's no water on. I go to the neighbor. I grab a flower pot from the front porch, go to the neighbor's house, start getting water out of their spigot.
I was gonna say you threw that in the toilet
To go
an
try and
accident.
force flush it. So now I'm dumping water into the bowl of a toilet that's got like soil and all this other stuff and little kid turds trying to flush it and it's not going down. I called the agent and I'm like, hey, look, man, I did my best, but there's 5-year-old turds in the toilet in this bathroom.
I think I made it worse.
And we got to go to the next house, so figure that out.
That stuff was bad during the recession.
All right,
When-
that's actionable advice. If you have vacant listings that are sitting on the market, agents, make sure you go by at least once a
because
week.
when that stuff sits,
There might be
oh my God,
a bunch of shit and potted plants in your toilets. You don't know.
so you know it's from.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it, when we were talking about this, was it a little bit hard to come up with these ideas, or not, just remember.
Dude, I know we're gonna have more. I'm gonna think of more as we're talking, but off the top of my head, I've only got one more.
Yeah.
And like that's the thing. We talked about this pre-show. Like, it gets fun to do this, and I'm sure we're gonna read some from the comments and stuff like that. But I think what makes us all pretty high-level operators is like we just don't dwell on that stuff. I can't think of any of the really crazy shit that went wrong. And dude, I've had deals. I've had one deal that it took me 3 different tries to sell it, and then once I did, finally on the 3rd try, closing got pushed back like 40 days on closing day. And that was just like 2 months ago. And I didn't even think about that until just now.
Yeah.
You know, like we just don't dwell on that stuff.
There have been plenty I've forgotten about, but I also think it's unique that, like, because you guys are both very similar, like, with your D personality, whereas I remember everything. And, like,
Yeah.
I don't remember the clients who went well with. I just remember all the ones who were angry at me, right, that I couldn't fix it. And it really wasn't my fault, but there was nobody else to yell at.
Right.
Well, and I was asking my assistant Stephanie on this, and really the ones that come up, or like they were in financial troubles, and they're taking their stress out on us, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
usually it's taken out on Stephanie, and there are times when I've had to go and if you talk to my people in a certain way, that's not with respect and kindness, that's when we're gonna have some words. And there's been multiple times that I have had to say, hey, if you want to continue talking like that, I'll be happy to come over to your house and you can talk to me that way.
Yeah.
And then it never happens again, right? And
That's because we live in a comment section society.
Yeah,
Right? It's really easy to be
100%,
like,
yeah.
yes, the keyboard warrior just over the phone, but really the main one that stuck out to mind, it was not really a horror story. It was kind of almost an uncomfortable situation. Was during the recession, I had a guy, he found me online and he'd bought a condo for his son, and this is drive over there. And I'm like, this is not the greatest part of Dallas.
Yeah.
But not thinking anything of it. And I drive up, and I can't go through the front door. Boarded off. And so I'm calling the dude, and he's not answering, and I wait. That's when I used to wait like 20 minutes. I'd stick around.
Yeah.
Now I wait 5 minutes. I'm like, all right, and I'm out.
Yeah.
Probably 5 minutes before. And I'm
They
like,
should be early to this appointment.
Yeah, if you're early, you're on time. If you're late, you're on time. So he finally answers and comes out through the garage. I'm like, okay, maybe. I don't ask questions.
Right.
So we go upstairs, and I look around. I'm like, drugs out, guns out. I'm like, uh-oh, what's going on?
Trap house.
Yes. And it had been raided the day before by SWAT. And, luckily the dude was actually a really nice guy. Like, I just didn't want to cross on that other side that wasn't there to buy any drugs. And so, I said, look, we're going to have to show it. Your dad bought this house. I feel really bad for him. And please put away the drugs and the guns. Because I just don't want anybody to take it thinking it's it's kind of like a BOGO.
Yeah, exactly.
You get to buy this and get this for free.
Yeah.
And so we ended up selling it, and it was one of my lowest. I think it was like $30,000. I made $900 on it.
Really?
But all these other ones, I guess I've blocked them out.
It's funny you say that though, but that's how these things go. Because like Elizabeth just commented, so, it's because our bodies and our minds don't remember pain, and I think that that's so true. It takes like some real deep digging. Because like right when you said that, I thought of like one that's absolutely crazy that I wouldn't have even thought of off the top of my head. This was like early last year, so it was only like 20 months ago. I had one in Carrollton that it already came in like way low on the appraisal, and this dude just wasn't gonna sell, and I already had him on a contract on a new build for a 5%er, so I was like, I'm getting that other side. So I gave him a huge break on the listing because I was like, dude, I was like, I'm not getting paid at all if it doesn't work. So I was making like $500 on the list side. Like I was just like, that was the only way I could keep the deal together. They had a bunch of FHA required repairs. One of the FHA required repairs, this is a true story. An adult made me do this. The home was built in like 82. It had popcorn ceilings everywhere, including the garage. The tape and bed in the garage was all messed up. The appraiser, the verbiage she actually used in there was that we had to restore the garage ceiling to its like original condition. So they made me put new popcorn ceilings in the garage. It was, I swear to God, I hired a contractor. He was like, "You want what now?" And I was like,
"That's gonna be extra."
Yeah, he was like, "I don't know what you're smoking, but I'll come over and play house with you. I don't care, whatever. I'm getting paid." So anyway, seller was at work when the contract came over. All I had to do was just come by and let him in. So I just let him in. Left, came back for a while. The garage was open because he's working, and so I came back just to check on him probably like 4 or 5 hours later because I had showings and I was driving back by there anyway. So I came back to check on him. He was just finishing up the part that was not covered by the garage. He's like, yeah, I'm just about to start the inside. So he hits the button on the garage to close the garage door to start on that part, and it comes down at an almost 90-degree angle. Like one side just didn't come down. Now the garage is like totally fucked. Like, my seller's already pissed because he's taking a lower amount. I'm already forking over money. Now I just broke his garage door or watched somebody else do it, and it made the most horrible, like, the sound when like the motor keeps running even though it's coming off the track and it's just like grinding it and the rails are bending. Like, it was so fucking messed up and stuck. So I was just like, well, I guess I quit real estate. I don't know. I'm leaving. No, I didn't do it though, but like,
how much did you end up spending on that out of your own pocket?
Bro, here's the thing. I called 2 people. First, I called Tamara Geed, shout out, with Home Warranty Company.
Yep.
And I was like, I think this whole house just like broke. I don't know what just happened, but I hit one button. And anyway, she was like, well, we cover like parts and all that type of stuff. She's like, I don't know if anything can happen while it's in the middle of being like that. Like, if you can get the garage door down, we can have somebody out ASAP to assess what went wrong. But she's like, I don't have people that just pried bent ass garage doors out to straight. I was like, I don't even think that's a job. You just deal with it, right? So then I called my dad. Like 31-year-old me. I was like, Dad, I think I broke somebody's door. Of course, my dad, the sweetest man in the world, is like, I'm on my way. I think he took a sick day.
He came over and got it done.
Dude, between him and me, it was us. It was a game of like world's strongest man, because at different times, both of us just had to support the weight of this entire garage door while it was disconnected from cables, versus a game of like chess against this 80s garage door, because there's a lot of strategy involved. First, we had to figure out what went wrong, which I don't know still to this day exactly what went wrong. We had to bang the rails back into place. We had to lift up one side while it was disconnected over here so we could get this side to fall to straighten it back out, then reconnect it, connect everything back to the motor. Then when we take it back up, if there's too much pressure because the rails are bent, it'll just come right back down. So once we got it straightened out, we had to bend the rails slowly back into place to get it actually to go all the way back up.
Was this because it was an FHA requirement, right?
Well, the ceiling was. All of this because they were making me put in new popcorn ceilings, which is dumb as hell in the first place.
What's the biggest check you've ever had to write to fix some stuff? I had to buy a whole like security system one time because early in my listing career I didn't exclude it.
Oh yeah.
And the buyer showed up and my clients come there like, hey, we really need to get that stuff out of the house. And I'm like, yeah, that's not yours anymore. And the new buyer was like, nope, I'm keeping it. So I had to cut a check. Me and another agent who we're friends on Facebook. Her name's Jennifer. I won't say her last name. End up having to split the cost of this security equipment.
Of your mess up.
Yeah. So I ended up walking over to the house and I got to pay this new buyer, who is the one who wouldn't give us back the equipment, to hand me a box of security gear. I ended up having to hand her a check for like $1,100.
Yeah. I've been on the other side of that. I will tell you, I do not really, as combative as I can be, because I really value our profession, and I think that agents do their clients a disservice a lot of times. I do have human compassion, so I don't like to make people do things I know that they don't want to do and that are, tough on them. But I'm also not going to do it just because they messed up too. So I've been on the other side of that, and I've so uncompromising. This is like a few years ago. I sold one in Castle Hills, and it's a big old house, like a big custom kitchen, but at no point did I, or like it comes down. It came down to the fridge, and it's funny because we were talking about this at the same time, because you had like 2 of these deals going
back to back
at the same time in a similar thing. So the fridge was not included in the house. It wasn't built into the kitchen. It wasn't like one of those big custom things. It was just a regular like Samsung fridge that slid into the little space and whatever. So I'm out of town when this offer comes in. He texts me beforehand, and the text said, would they be willing to throw in the fridge? I asked the seller. The seller said, yeah. I texted him back. I said, sure, man. They'd be willing to throw in the fridge.
Legally binding.
He sends me the offer. Offer has no non-realty items addendum on it. There's nothing on it about the fridge. I never took 2 seconds to think about it again. I figured they just didn't want the fridge. Whatever. Anyway, we get all the way to closing day. And they text me after closing. He's like, "Where's the fridge?" I was like, probably in a storage unit somewhere. I have no idea. He's like, "You said they were including the fridge." I said they'd be willing to. You have to put that in the offer, right? Like, you could ask me if they were willing to include their dog, but if it isn't making it into the contract, like, you're responsible for putting it into the contract. He's like, "I'll call you back."
My closing this morning it wasn't a fridge. I had a fridge one in Fort Worth earlier this year, but mine was a lease back. He's like, "So your people aren't leasing the house back?" He sends me a screenshot of a conversation we had on August 2nd about me saying, like, hey, they might need a lease back. And I was like, but we never ended up executing one. And he's like, well, my people aren't going to have the utilities on until the 1st. I was like, well, that's kind of their problem because they own the home today.
Yeah.
So it's hot outside. I would suggest you don't do that.
Form for that. So he calls me back. He calls me back like half hour later. He's like, "So we splitting the cost of this or what?" That was the end of that conversation.
You're like, who is this? Like,
I don't know you.
like, I'm on the do not call list. Mine has been the freaking fridges. That was our kryptonite earlier. We had those two back to back, which I understand a main fridge, but when you build an outdoor kitchen,
Yeah, that's different.
and you have a little tiny fridge that goes in that spot, my viewpoint on it, and I'm not an attorney, but I've got a lot of viewpoints, is that that fridge should have stayed.
Yeah.
And that was a big one. The other one was a fridge where, our client didn't say he wanted it. He just found out that the seller sold it. And he's like, well, why didn't they sell it to me? And so they wanted us to buy
first dibs.
Yeah, yes. And so they wanted us to buy a fridge. And I'm like, absolutely not. It's like, I'm sorry. Like I don't know what they're selling. Like, I didn't go to their garage sale or anything like that. And then I had actually, it was a really good one. This was probably 5 years ago. And I forgot that drapes stay with the house.
That was a change. So there was a transition period here where a lot of people didn't have that down. Nowadays, anytime anybody asks me anything, I'm like, yeah, it's included. Unless I just assume it's included.
Yeah.
I don't want to mess that up.
So, I was representing the seller and they took their drapes. And the buyer was a single dude.
Yeah.
Right? And these drapes were the flowerist looking drapes that you've ever seen. Like, just flower pattern. It was god awful color. And look, I knew that the drapes should have stayed.
Right.
At the end of the day, I'm like,
But they also weren't worth anything.
no. And I was like, come on, Agent X. Does that dude really want flower drapes in their house? Are they
this dude's
really?
being a dick.
Are they?
Yeah.
Yes, and that's what I said. And at the end of it, we still won, but it was kind of that argument where you were like, not that we were wrong. It wasn't our fault, but at the end of the day, like, you're arguing against the case. It'd be like representing a murderer.
Yeah.
And you know that dude did it.
Right.
And you're still trying to defend them in the best way to try to get them maybe the least amount of time.
I had to fix a garage door sensor because I had a murder seller who was a total douche like that. Really? I literally watch him as the inspector comes back to do the second inspection to make sure that we did all the repairs. Like, as he's making sure the garage door safety laser thing works, my seller is standing by the door where the little button is, and the inspector walks over to kick his foot through the laser, and my seller hits the button and makes it stop. And it makes it start again. I was like, that guy is in lending, moved to Florida, actually moved back, and I did a deal with him. He's just the worst.
Those things are so easy to fix, too.
I know. It's ridiculous.
That's great.
It's ridiculous. I'm just sitting there looking at him like, what in the world is going on?
That is super high-level commitment to not doing what you're supposed to do.
I'm doing a $15 fix. I think I ended up having to write like 100. I just wrote so many checks. I was an assistant when I first got into real estate with this. They're now called Wright House. They're with Compass, but it was the Donald Wright Group in Lake Highlands. Yeah. And their client service, I think, is off the charts, and they really believe that, like, look, you'll write a check before you let a client go out there and, like, badmouth you all over the world. And I do agree with that up to a certain point.
Yeah, I think there's definitely
And so, like, I was still in that mentality back then. So, like, but all the stuff that guy didn't do to the house, I ended up writing a $200 check to solve all the problems.
Yeah,
I was like, you're
so
such a cheap
right?
bastard. Like, what is your problem, man? Have you guys ever, I don't do this anymore, but, I've got my phone in one pocket, my keys in another pocket, my wallet in one back pocket, and when I'm walking through the house, I always put the house key in my back left.
I already know where you're going with this.
Dude, there have been times where I was showing somewhere 45 minutes away, and you get that call 2 hours later, and it's Nick, and he's like, hey, man, I really appreciate you showing my listing. Another agent just went by to show it, and the key wasn't in the lockbox. You know what happened? It's like, dude, I don't have any clue. you're like, you know what, just let me go check those pants real quick. And sure as hell, there's a key in the back left pocket. And I always feel so terrible because, one, I've just wasted some agent's time who went to show their buyer, and now they're in a frantic mess at the front door looking like an idiot.
Right.
The listing agent potentially lost a buyer because they never gotten to see the house.
Right.
And I've got to drive like a 2 hours round trip to go put this key back in the lockbox.
Well, that's assuming that you actually knew that the key, or you were actually a really good human being, because most people don't. And then
They
what
just
we
ditch the key and
Yeah.
just throw it into a lake.
no. And then what ends up happening is now we look bad in front of our sellers because
Yeah.
somehow it's my fault, or the
Right.
listing agent's fault.
Yep.
And so we have to go get a copy of the key made, or now what they want to do is, because they don't know where the key is, so obviously it's some bad guy that has
Gotta
it.
rekey
And-
the whole
and-
house.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
So they
yeah.
want a locksmith, and I'm like, no,
Yeah.
that's not how this works.
Yeah.
I've never done that. That's happened to me. I've never done that, but I've locked my Supra inside the house.
I'm so
Yes.
scared of doing
Probably 4 times off the top of my head that I can think of. Twice I was able to get in with garage codes. I called the agent and I was like, "Can I just have the fucking garage code?" I locked my Supra in there, and they actually had it, which is
Yeah.
a miracle. The other 2 times I had to call another agent to come let my dumb ass back in the house, and it was like in the middle of like 5 showings, and this was like number 2 or 3. So like my buyers are they're trying to be nice about it, but it's summertime
super
outside. They're
annoyed.
just so pissed off, and they're trying not to make a bad day worse. They're such good sports about it, but you know how mad they are, dude.
And there have been times in my career that funds have been a little bit light. So if you're a real estate agent who kind of like, sometimes you get paycheck to paycheck, don't worry, we've all been there.
Yeah, for sure.
But I've rolled up on houses and my Supra's been cut off. And you roll up to go like open it, and you're like, update. You're
I've been doing- yeah.
Uh-oh.
And you
Like,
start, and then you get that
Oh,
sweat
bro.
going,
Yeah.
and you're like, all right, what do we do?
You can't turn around and tell these people are about to buy
Yeah.
their largest asset that you can't pay your
You're
$17
trying to think of the
Supra
most
bill.
convincing lie that make it not seem like
And you're
your
like,
fault.
it's really cloudy, so I don't think the satellite's connecting to the Bluetooth.
I don't know,
Like,
it's
it'd be like-
triangulating the right way.
The listing agent just called. They actually rescheduled for tomorrow.
Yeah, I've done the listing
Yes.
agent rescheduled
I mean,
on us.
That,
Some of these, have you read the Corey McCaskey? Shout out to Corey. This is funny. Some of these have been good. He said I got to hear this story. He said he had clients temporarily move in with him. There was not a chance in hell. And I've sold my family members' homes. Even they're not moving in with me. That's some serious commitment.
I had one in Caddo Mills a couple of years ago where we had closed it, and it's an agent who's actually with another. He's not with the same brokers now, but I still see him every once in a while. I still hate this dude so much because this one night, it was back when closing a deal for me was a big deal, and I went out and it was the end of the day, and it was prior to being a dad, so I went out to happy hour or whatever, and I get a phone call from my clients, and they had loaded up a U-Haul from Lancaster and drove to Caddo Mills, and they're like, "Hey, we're at our new house, and there's still people in it," and I'm like, "What?" And so they're like, no, they're still here. And like they have their refrigerator with food in it in the back of the truck, whatever. We go up to the door. So I drive from Dallas to Caddo Mills like 7 o'clock at night, right? I wasn't happy houred up, but I certainly didn't smell like the freshest of human beings either, right?
sure.
So I go and knock on the door, and I tell the new sellers, I'm like, or the sellers, I was like, guys, what's going on? And they were like, we thought we had a couple of days to get out. Our agent didn't tell us that like when we closed and funded, we had to leave right away. And I was like, that's not it at all. Like I was like, you're actually squatting on somebody else's property right now. And then I made the mistake of saying the wrong thing. I said, because I was trying to be nice and let them know kind of legally what the situation was, but it came across totally wrong.
Yeah.
And I was like, I said, kind of technically everything is still in this house legally belongs to my clients right now.
Yeah.
And that's the wrong thing to say in Caddo Mills, Texas.
we'll take your
Because
shit.
that dude straight up was like, well, we've had enough of this conversation. He looks at his wife and pretty much does the go get the gun thing. I turn around, call the Hunt County Sheriff. He comes out and is like, there's really nothing we can do. The people who were selling the house actually end up sleeping in their workshop with like their 3 pit bulls that night. My people start moving in. The next day, they're just gone. I have no idea what happened to them. They just move out.
and unfortunately, that is. I mean, I've had that on the other end where we represented a buyer, and this was an experienced agent, like been in the business a long time, and that person did not tell the seller. The seller thought she could move out. The contract was the move out date, like 30 days after the contract. I'm like, no, and she wasn't getting out. She's like, taking me to court. She's like,
And that buyers could act like
Unfortunately,
people don't realize
that's
if
the
you just sit in the
reality,
house, you can really sit there for a while before they can force you to do anything.
That's the reality. Yeah, it's honestly like even in that situation, like by the time anything really tangible happened, like it would like it's so much more trouble than it's worth unless it's just a few days. But that I have some that I would think when I think of most of the frustrating situations that I've dealt with in this business, they usually come down to another agent representing their clients.
Almost always.
And the communication that I'm getting from them, having to translate that and make any logical sense of it to my clients without me looking like an idiot. So I'll give you an example, and this is hopefully there's some actionable advice that changes the world in here somewhere. I was trying to do a deal for a townhome in McKinney. Don't remember the list price. Let's say it was $250. It's been on the market for like 3 months. We offered $235 opening offer. Decent, right? Prepared to meet somewhere in the middle. I get an email back from the agent that's like, change a couple terms like the closing date. They want a lease back. They wanted a lease back for like 4 or 5 months because they were building their house, right? Which actually ended up being okay. I was like, because it just the situation my buyers were in, it ended up being able to make that work. She's like, they need a 5-month lease back, closing date or whatever. And she's like, and they want you to guarantee the price in case it doesn't appraise. And I was like, but we offered $15,000 less than the asking price. She was like, it's just standard. I do it on every one of my deals. And I was like, this is all happening via email. I was like, you understand that like that sort of concept is reserved for when I'm offering more than the asking price, because I'm saying, hey, I want this house so badly, I'll pay more than you're asking for it. And you're saying that sounds like a great deal, but we're not confident that it will appraise. That's why we priced it lower. So we would like you to guarantee that we'll get that money. What we're saying is we're offering you less than what you're asking, and you're saying we're still not sure it'll appraise. We want you to guarantee. And I'm like, I don't know if you're just being weird, or if you don't know how to price. Like, I just don't understand what's happening here.
That's just an agent who got bad advice earlier in their career and then got married to it.
I'm trying to explain this to my buyer, and I'm like, they're good with the price, but if for some reason it doesn't appraise, they want you to pay the difference in cash. And he was like, well, is it not going to appraise? I was like, it doesn't seem like, I don't see any reason it shouldn't appraise. He's like, well, then why do they want that? I was like, I don't know, Rich. I'm trying to figure it out too. I've been going back and forth for 4 days over email with this lady. Like, she was not budging. Finally, they were like, you know what? I think we're just going to keep looking.
So that's the thing.
That's what
it
happens.
ruined that opportunity.
Oh, it completely shot the deal. I
Yep.
was just like, how is this? This isn't logical at all.
Agents kill more deals in the in-between than in anything else. Anytime you start seeing an agent who starts, when you send an email requesting repairs or some counteroffer and they respond to it within like 5 minutes, they did not talk to their seller. They are,
And that's the thing. We go back and
They're not going to do any of this.
Yeah. And I said, well, did you actually talk to your client? Because it's almost, and I don't want to say it's almost 100% of the time when they say that, what ends up happening, it gets done.
almost all the
right?
time.
Usually.
But because I've known, look, I'm not one to, I don't want to be wrong. So I'm not ever going to be like, look, they'll never take this, because then the minute that I say that, then they do it and then I look bad.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, all we do is say, look, we'll go present it. Like, that's our job anyway. Like, the thing that Matt and I have always, one of our biggest pet peeves when we always talk and we're just venting is, I'm just a messenger.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I will tell you exactly why those conversations happen with the agents. The agents that say, oh, they'll never do this, is because they are petrified to go to their sellers and talk to them about it.
They don't control the situation.
Which is just, when you get experience, I mean, that's just, like, I don't care about stuff at all, because it's not me that's doing it, right? The deal that I mentioned before, Matt was in the room when that happened. The deal that I mentioned before, that like on the date, we had sold the house 3 times. The buyer's financing had fallen through twice. We were finally ready to close. On the day before closing, the freaking dude the mortgage lender finally just found out that he had changed jobs 2 weeks ago. He was in the same field, but he needed a month's worth of pay stubs. So literally, we just had to move back we needed to move closing back 30 days and just sit and wait. So they were like all ready to go to their new place, and I just called them up. I was like, "Hey, are you ready for me to ruin your day? Because this one's gonna hurt."
At that point, they're beat down so much though that they almost just like.
But he
fine.
knew it wasn't mine. There's nothing I can do about this idiot buyer. You know what I mean? So it's like, when you're a pro and you can handle those conversations. Like, I never go back to another agent and be like, "Well, you know, they're not gonna do any of these things," because you're like, I have no idea.
Nick's right about the messenger thing. That's one of the most annoying things to hear.
Yeah.
But I keep thinking some of these we start rehashing these, and they're like, oh yeah, I had this, I had that, and you know, the people or the agents that really dwell on it are the ones that aren't going to last.
Sure.
That's exactly.
Because look, you know, I know Brian and I are both high D's, Matt, you're at high I, but at the same time, if you really took the beatings, right? I mean, this, I was talking to another agent today on the way over here to do the show, and we were kind of talking about some of, this industry's tough, right? It's tough because, one, it's hard to get clients, right? And then once you get them, then you have to perform that job, and during that time, you're getting the shit beat out of you.
Yep.
And then once it's done, you got to go start it all over again.
Yep.
Or while you're doing it, you're continuing to go find new people that is just asking to get beat up. And then there's those unicorn clients that are just like, oh, why? That's such a smooth, easy closing. You're like, why can't it always be like this?
Well, and I think because you're dealing with people, right? It's the thing that we always end up running into. I did a Facebook Live video about an expired listing we just took, and the guy had sent out like a survey. And when I initially got it, I was like, oh, God. Right, but we ended up getting the listing, and most of the agents just didn't respond. And I think at the end of the day, for sellers specifically, and I have a little, well, it's probably more with my buyers because I have more experience with them. But everybody's emotional threshold in the transaction is so different, right? So there have been times I've gotten frustrated with people who were just really confused, right, or they were overly needy in the process. So some people you can extend some grace to, but then there are just some people who are so off the rails, man. We had that lady. Oh, actually, you and I hadn't partnered yet. A lady last year who sold with Open Door because she just didn't want to stop smoking weed in her house. Like, she was just like, took essentially 15 grand less because she was like, I got to blow hard, son. You're just like, what is going on here?
There's something I almost respect about
just
that.
go on the patio,
I know it's fucking
man.
stupid, right?
It is so dumb. We rented this house to these guys on Riger, an old historic district. One time it was this really nice house, and like, I went in to like do a check before they moved out, and they just had a bunch of beer caps with blunts put out in the beer caps. And I was like, look, guys, I went to college too. But clean this shit up. Like, what are we doing here today? It's just insane. So,
so I want to go and kind of circle back to, and this gets a little bit more rated R-ish.
This is where I wanted to hear. I gotta hear this
we're
one.
circling back to that.
I don't know this story at all.
That intro of Elizabeth Austin and the gangbang, and the participation or not participation.
It's just such a violent phrase.
So she was representing this client who is immediate families with a pro basketball player, and which is always cool, right? That's always a cool thing. And she was representing to help sell and buy. And at the listing, she pretty much knew she had this listing because the guy started rubbing her shoulders during the listing appointment.
Maybe she just looked really stressed out about the presentation.
I can honestly say that that's never happened to me.
I've never been touched by a seller in a listing appointment.
Yeah, never.
in any way, shape, or form.
Have you, Brian?
Touched? No. Flirted with? Yeah, a bunch of old ladies for sure.
But I've never. I mean, I'm a little jealous. Want my shoulders massaged, and so she successfully gets that house listed and closed. And during at that time, she wrote in here. She sent me a whole email on this. At the closing table, this gentleman was hitting on her and the escrow officer.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Who's the escrow officer? Well, don't tell me.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Tell us off.
Yeah.
We need some context.
If
for the
Elizabeth
story.
wants to have that context, she can go ahead and drop in the comments down below. And when that escrow officer went to go make copies, he invited her, Elizabeth, to his cousin's house, which was the pro basketball player, for a Friday night swim with just him and his friends, aka the pro basketball player, and started talking very sexually, which sounds like something that happens quite often. And then she said that after closing, she actually declined. She didn't go to the party.
Sure.
That's good.
So she declined the gangbang.
She said, I do not want anything to do with this.
She sent an email to him, and he was asking for a closing gift.
Oh God.
And she had sent him this is what happened. She had sent him a closing gift. He didn't ask for one. She had sent him a closing gift to Z Gallery, and he was offended that she didn't send more money.
I don't understand the people who ask for closing gifts who are mad. That's not sufficient.
First of all,
it's a weird bit.
Guys, don't do shit like that and be a weird piece of shit. Second of all, clients, don't ask for closing gifts.
Yeah, and sorry to all women in real estate. You guys just seem to have to
sorry
deal
for
with the most
everybody.
obnoxious, like this kind of stuff. I hear women say this all the time,
Oh,
right?
this
We're
is
in
not
plenty
a
of
new
groups.
thing. To get into a more serious mode, this is like
I don't
rampant.
understand, and we just had that Encino guy just got arrested that attacked that agent
Yeah,
or whatever outside
threw
the-
her down the
He got
stairs.
arrested last night, fortunately for that.
Good.
But either way, like. I don't. You're just in a position where you have to have your phone number out there and all your contact information out there for public consumption to do your job effectively.
Yep.
And you know what? Stay safe, ladies, because I don't know what the hell's wrong with 2019 dudes.
Well, and she's got so many stories on here. She's like, and this is a running joke. She's got a client who has a crush on her, and it started with him dressing up for showings.
Oh, that's kind of
You know,
sweet.
so that
She's
was
saying, she's like, he asked more than once to come over, and she said no. He asked for a Z Gallery gift card.
Oh,
or
asked
something.
for a
Yeah.
Z Gallery.
Z Gallery gift card.
He wanted to get one of those globes that was like turquoise.
Yeah.
I get you a $10 Z Gallery gift card so you could buy a notebook.
So if you're listening to this on iTunes, you really need to go to our Facebook page on this and rewatch this one and check out the comments. But Elizabeth she somehow attracts these people, right? I mean, this dude starts dressing up for showings, and then on the second showing, he went in for a kiss.
Oh God,
Yes,
Testing the waters.
and this
it's
dude,
just not okay.
this dude will show up to every client event of ours. He's a single guy, has no children, and we'll be having a back to school movie event that's for kids, and he'll show up, and he'll be wearing his finest clothes, his going out clothes.
3-piece suit.
Yeah,
With like a pocket watch.
and every time
To watch Dumbo.
every time going in, and for that awkward try to, you're leaning in and she's not, and just
How
gets
is
the
that your
cheek.
game? Your game is like, just look, if I just go in for a kiss enough times,
I got to give Miss Austin
eventually
credit
she's
too.
gonna slip up and go into like
She's
what?
got thicker skin than most, man.
Dude,
She does.
100%, man. I know a bunch of people in this industry that are no nonsense that would be clocking that dude
Yeah.
on round one.
If it happened to you, you would.
I mean,
I've never had
probably
that
not-
happen. Here's and,
I'm
and
probably
we're,
not punching anybody myself, but
we're at the Derek's gonna chase us off here pretty soon. But I've never had that happen. But I have had the like walk in on somebody who doesn't, like maybe it's a tenant or older
Yeah.
folks, right? Just for whatever reason, they don't get the alert. Some for some
Yeah.
reason they are there in the house and not expecting you.
yeah.
And then they walk out of the bathroom and they're 75 and just a bra and like some
The-
shorts
the
on or
usual-
something, right? It's like, this crazy thing happens, right? Like I've had plenty of those, but nobody ever tried to
I've
touch me.
I've never had that. I've had
Really?
the drugs and guns.
Oh,
But-
I have plenty of guns. I haven't had as many drugs. That's
But-
kind of a dream of mine, is to find like 10 keys of heroin in somebody's closet. Not for me. I don't want it.
Just stash in a duffel
yeah,
bag.
I
run
just
off.
think it'd be a good story.
It's
What
the
would you
beginning of a
do?
movie.
I don't know.
It may lead us into Brian's billionaire idea of the week.
I'd probably just gram it. I'd be like, hey, ATF, guess what address I'm at? I'd be long gone when they got there.
And we kind of wanted to do this today. One as just a fun episode. Like you're definitely probably not learning anything on this one.
No, but here's what you should learn: don't get too emotionally involved in the transaction when you train wreck it.
Have
And
fun with it.
You're gonna have super awkward situations in front of other human beings in random people's houses, and you've got to figure out a way to smooth that over.
It's a crazy industry, man. Enjoy the ride.
Have you?
Elizabeth just said you left a bunch of details. I figured he
You
did.
left
The way he was scrolling the email, I was like,
Nick
I
Good
can't read that.
fashion.
Yeah, I can't read that.
We
Yeah.
always get definitely a skewed version.
I've got a happy hour tab with your name on, Elizabeth, for the rest of that story. So
There we go.
Yeah, she's got all the good ones. So keep commenting down below. Let's we want to hear your stories because
Yeah.
again, maybe it's just because we had so many bad ones. I'd keep blocking them out.
Exactly.
I'm gonna remember more and go back in the comment section of the show today and start leaving them behind. So that way.
I'm gonna start live tweeting mine.
You should have brought.
this
Yeah.
bitch.
And on another slight side note, this has nothing to do with anything, but if you do want to be a cool real estate agent and blow off some steam, Deep Ellum tomorrow, 3 to 6, Ruins. Brian and I's little YouTube page, Undoubtedly Dallas. We're doing a little just happy hour get together. So
I'm going to do my own get
Signing
together.
autographs.
Since I'm gone, I'm doing my own one at Ruins in 2 weeks.
Brian and I will come to that one too. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
exactly. We'll be there too. So you can come either time.
Yeah, exactly.
How did your your taco open house bar go?
It went pretty good. I mean, we ended up having some agents come through. It was a funny bit we were trying to do that was kind of lost upon them because the thing is, South Lake luxury agents don't watch Brian and I's Silly Dallas Taco Podcast.
Which is ridiculous.
So they didn't really understand that, like, the bit of bringing, like, 30 Taco Bell tacos was actually, like... was actually a bit for our show.
So I saw that
funny.
post.
So they went over kind of like an S sandwich, but I ate about 5 of them.
I saw that post with all the Taco Bells, and I'm like, what is this?
It was supposed to be funny, but what Kelly and I didn't take it. Shout out to my awesome cohort in all of these shenanigans, Kelly Force, for putting it all together. But like, we just thought it'd be funnier, and then we had a bunch of South Lake luxury agents walk in, and they were like, "We don't get it." So we're like, "But have a mimosa and shut up."
Well, speaking of not getting it, Derek,
Let's do it.
touracademy.com. Sign up. First month for $1.
$1.
Use the code ONLYREPOD.
What's the Take 10 Listings a Month website,
I think
Brian?
it's take10listings.com, but don't go there yet. wait till I buy the domain. Derek, everything I do is like a social experiment, but it's only a social experiment for me because I am an explorer of the human condition. And I know I could probably do these things in a less elaborate fashion, but what kind of fun would that be, Derek? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start tracking down all of the world's mythological beasts and capturing them. I'm going to start with Bigfoot. Now, obviously, this whole thing is going to be a ruse from the beginning. Everyone's going to know it, Derek. It's going to be me and you out there shooting a video, tracking down Bigfoot. It's going to look real jank. Obviously, Bigfoot's not real at all.
We gotta take out the early 2000s cameras for that.
Oh, 100%. And we're going to do it in a way that doesn't really even make sense, as if it's obvious from the beginning I don't know how to hunt a Bigfoot, right? Like, I'm going to have no weapons. We're just going to be chasing him around the woods on grainy video. But when we do capture him, we're going to tackle him straight up. That's how we're going to capture him. His rubber hand's going to fall off. So you're going to know it's... But we're just going to leave that in the video. But then, I'm going to be so rich that I'm going to sell his carcass to a museum. And they're going to take it, Derek. Because I'm going to give them $2 billion to take it.
Are you gonna taxidermy
I'm
it?
going to call up... What's a museum, Derek, where you would keep a Bigfoot?
The Smithsonian.
Is that what I was thinking? The
Yeah,
Smithsonian.
absolutely.
So we're going to call the Smithsonian and be like, we got fucking Bigfoot. The curator's going to be like, no, they don't. And I'd be like, do you want a new wing for the Smithsonian?
And $2 billion.
And $2 billion? They'll be like, of course. I'll be like, you put up my Bigfoot. You put up my Bigfoot right now. And so then there's going to be a fucking Bigfoot display in the Smithsonian. It's just going to be a big rubber suit.
This sounds like a museum that's like a block away from the Alamo in San Antonio. That's where this actual museum should be.
And people are going to be like, wow, he caught Bigfoot. They're not going to say that. They're all going to know it's a bit. But you know what, Derek? Next month, we're going to catch the Loch Ness Monster. It's going to be you and me in a boat. Just throwing nets out and we're reeling in.
My favorite part of this is how I'm just along for the ride.
Yeah, Derek
Well,
knows
just for fun.
You gotta
Just for
help
fun.
me. I can't carry all these obviously monster truck tires by myself, but we're gonna reel them in. I don't know what museum is in Ireland, but it's going up right in there. And then it's gonna cost us probably a few more billion. We're gonna have exhibits all over the world, Derek. But then we're also going to start doing PSAs about operating with integrity, Derek. There's always a lesson. There's a lesson at the end of every one of them. So we're going to do the bits, but then we're going to educate the people and be like, look, you've all been brainwashed. That's not even a real Bigfoot. Can you believe these? You know what we're going to do, Derek? I changed my mind. You know what we're going to do? We're going to file a class action lawsuit against the Smithsonian for false Bigfoot shit, and every ticket holder who ever got lied to about that being the real Bigfoot is going to be entitled to, at least $1.80, I would assume. Depends on how many people can get involved.
Price of admission.
Yeah, they're going to
$14.50 or something.
So I'm going to donate the Bigfoot and the wing, and $2 billion, and then I'm going to file a lawsuit against them.
I'm just happy
for operating under false pretenses.
I'm just happy these have gotten so much less violent than the way they started.
Yeah.
Now we're just attacking fictional beasts.
Yeah.
That's good.
No real people died in this one. Well, I don't know. We might kill the dude that's in the Bigfoot. We don't know how realistic we want I don't know how realistic we want the video to be, Derek. They got to believe that something died.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway,
That's it.
that one's a work in progress.
I'll take that one. Well, if you continue watching this, you're watching the replay, make sure to comment all your crazy real estate stories. Go to touracademy.com, only RE Pod, Tour Academy for $1. We'll have another website for you next week. D, get us out of here.